Hey everybody, happy Saturday. We are back once again for our weekly Light Diffuse article of Jason, over at Paydirt DFS. Shouldn't say article anymore because we have turned this into a video series, but there is a short form article on the site which will basically cover everything we're going to discuss here at a high level overview. Just so everybody knows what this show is about, we are going to be covering the top game environments for Sunday's NFL main slate over on Draftkings. We're going to talk about the game environments in which you can build around. Just to make it very clear, these are not saying you should be playing these as full-on stacks with their quarterbacks, but these are the game environments that can provide you the value and upside you need to hopefully win some tournaments this weekend. So just to get into, right away, jump in. So this week, I feel like there's quite a few more game environments than over the last few weeks that give you a little bit more confidence. And what I mean by confidence, it's not that where you're definitely going to see points, but it's confidence that at the price tags that you see, that if things go right, they could be pretty valuable. So jumping right in, the first game environment I'm going to talk about is, and these are not in ranking of importance. I'll cover that later if anybody wants. But so first and foremost, we're going to go to Indianapolis and Kansas City. So this game is, has the Colts coming off a bye. We have the Chiefs coming off a loss to the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs really need this win to save their season. The Colts, don't really need to win. Obviously, they're going to play to win every single week, but they seem to be firmly entrenched in first place in their division. But nonetheless, this is a statement game for both teams. The reason why I selected this game first is because there's some pricing. I think there's some pricing mistakes in this game. And then there's also some people that are priced up so much. Like you have to really consider if you really think that they're worth the gamble. So let me start with the Colts side. So on the Colts side, they're just a super efficient offense. We talk about them every single week on this show. We talk about them. I've had them written up for weeks in my article. This is a team that just produces elite offensive environments and elite game environments because they are such an efficient offense and their defense is like kind of ass. I mean, they have made some upgrades. They brought in Sauce Gardner and, we'll get into some of the changes they made over the last, week or two in terms of scheme with that. But they're such an efficient offense. Daniel Jones has been very, very good. Jonathan Taylor has been the best running back in football. When they pass down the field, they are pretty successful. And here they're going to get a Kansas City team who's been playing a lot of man coverage. Not as much in recent years, but still enough. And I think they got some horses on their side that can really win some matchups. But starting with the Colts side, I know Jonathan Taylor is $10,000. I'm probably not going to be getting to a lot of them here, but there is a world where Jonathan Taylor has one of those big games, these man gap run schemes that the Kansas City Chiefs, really struggle against is really what they excel at. So if you are of the mindset of everybody else that says, hey, the Colts are probably going to have a tough time throwing the ball. The Chiefs defense is elite, whatever you want to say. They've actually have been not as great as people think. And I say this every week. Every single defense in football, no matter how good you think they are, gives up something. And where I think they could be susceptible this week is really through the, between the tackles with Jonathan Taylor and some of these deep shots also when they get found into man coverage. So Jonathan Taylor, when you look at these fantasy scores, this is not a sign to be like, hey, go play him. You can play him if you want, but this is a sign that he does enough where maybe KC can't fuck around really. And, you think about how these teams score points. The Colts are very more balanced. The Chiefs are the most pass-heavy team in football. So if Jonathan Taylor is doing his part, you might get a ceiling outcome out of a Kansas City stack, which is what I'm going to, speak about shortly. But Jonathan Taylor at 10 grand, very, very expensive, but still has upside. And on this slate, you need him to be the highest scoring running back and he can pay off. Is he going to outscore Gibbs? I don't know. Is he going to outscore Bijan? I don't know, but probably. So just something to really think about. When I look at them from a wide receiver and tight end standpoint, I really like these prices on Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. These guys have been man beaters throughout their entire career. Alec Pierce he's been really, really good. Like his yards per target are pretty insane. Really good at the catch point. He finally found the end zone last, in wherever they played, Germany, I think, before, when they played the Falcons right before the bye. But he's getting a heavy dose of targets here. And if you're going to give me 5 to 7 targets against man coverage at 5K, I like the opportunity for him to maybe beat one, right? So like I think there's some meat on the bone there. Josh Downs at 4,500. Yeah, it didn't have the performance you love to see against Atlanta, but prior to that, has been very, very heavily involved. So I think these are some cheap pieces on that side. On the Kansas City side, though, so Patrick Mahomes at 6,800. I firmly believe that if you're paying up past like Jared Goff at quarterback this week, I think you're leaving a lot of opportunity costs on the table there. Can he get there? Sure, right? But when you go look at the Kansas City side, Rashee Rice at 7,700 for the workload that he gets. You'll roll the dice there. Worthy at 4,700. He's questionable. If he doesn't play, that boosts him too. Hollywood Brown may get some run. And Travis Kelce at 5K is tremendous. So going to the KC side when they're going against Indianapolis. So Indianapolis, I say this every single week, and you go back and look at the articles I've written. They're the type of defense that is a bend but don't break. They want you to march the length of the field, and then they try to disrupt you at some point in the drive. They don't really blitz a lot. They don't like to come after you, but they are giving up about, I think the last time I checked was a 63, 64% completion percentage on the year. They play this heavy shell coverage defense. They mixed in a little bit more man against the Falcons, but I wonder if that's because outside of like Drake London, they just didn't really respect anybody. So maybe they do something a little different here with Rashee Rice. But regardless of it, if they do have a little bit of an uptick in man, or if they're going to sit in a soft cover shell, Travis Kelce here is just like persona non grata. Like I know that word doesn't even make sense to have for you, or that phrasing, but he's just too cheap at 5K for what he can do. I said this last week on the show, and he proved me right. I said Denver is a man heavy team, but they've been going to zone a little bit more as of late with Pat Surtain out. I said they didn't want to play a ton of man to man, and they didn't have to because they don't want Mahomes to beat them with their legs. And I said Travis Kelce's probably going to go for I can see him sitting down for 7-8 catches. Well, he went 9 for 91 and 1. And you're getting Patrick Kelce in a spot here on the most pass-heavy team in football against one of the worst pass defenses in football that doesn't really pressure the quarterback. Yeah, I'm all about that. So I think Travis Kelce at 5K, what he does also is he does a few different things. Number one, I think he fills a very, very hard secondary spot because everybody's going to want to play Trey McBride, and you should play Trey McBride. Actually, some of my favorite combos are him with Trey McBride and double tight ends. Secondly, if we do get some other chalk on this slate, reveal itself with Josh Jacobs being out, and you get 5,200 Emmanuel Wilson. You got other guys in that range that are projecting for a lot more ownership that I think he can maybe do something better than, right? Like Michael Wilson exploded here, but for $200 more, you can play Travis Kelce. Romeo Doubs, last time I checked, he was projecting for decent chalk. Let me see what I have him at right now. Yeah, I got Romeo Doubs for about 13% here. So if you're going to tell me I can play Travis Kelce in this offense in a script where they're going to be throwing the ball nonstop and they're going to probably see a zone heavy approach here, I'm all into that. I think the best way I would want to attack this game is if I do take somebody from Indianapolis. I don't think I want to stack them up with Daniel Jones, but I do think I might want, Alec Pierce or Josh Downs as some salary relief. They're both projecting very, very low right now in terms of ownership. I think Tyler Warren's fine. I think at 5,500 though, there's a lot of opportunity costs there, and they have him involved, but it's not like a Brock Bowers. It's not like a Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, even like, Dallas Goedert a little bit below that have these like crazy red zone roles of their offense, like basically, is built around them. Right. So like, that's what I would say. From that side, I'd probably take one of those cheap wide receivers. On the KC side, Travis Kelce, love it. Rashee Rice, I think he's a very, very good pivot up top there off of the people that are going to play Amon-Ra and, people that might want to go to like, no one's going to go to Justin Jefferson probably, but yeah, he's a good pivot off of Amon-Ra. So I'm all for that. I have lot of interest in one-off pieces from this game. I think if you wanted to stack, I prefer the Mahomes side here, but I just don't think with the cheap plethora of quarterbacks on this slate that I'm going to get there. So that's what I would say. All right, going on to the next game, we have Arizona Jacksonville. We might as well just get this one out of the way because I said this on the bakery. Me and Tribe said it. talked about this. Jacoby Brissett, 5,300. What the fuck are we doing, DraftKings? What the fuck are we doing? I don't understand. Like, help me understand why we're doing this again. Now he gets Jacksonville on the road, who is a strict pass funnel defense. They want to limit the run. Their secondary is terrible. And the worst part is too is like Arizona's defense is going to give up yards and points. Like, he's going to get pushed here. Very simply put, I think Brissett stacks are like the fucking nuts. And I've looked at ownership in multiple places, and he's not projecting Brissett for that high of ownership as much as I thought he would. I just don't get it. Like, I just don't get it, especially because his weapons, like, I'm not saying that they're going to have a repeat performance, but you give me Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson. You play Trey McBride, who, by the way, at 6,800 is still way, way, way too cheap. You do the math on that. 10-1, you're talking about, 17, 18,000 for a block that just scored, 30 for McBride, 36, 60, 66. And now, yeah, you're talking about like a 3-player block that just scored 92 points last week in a much worse matchup. Like, how do you not do that? Right. Like, and even here, I think you can even triple it up because, again, everybody's too cheap. No Marvin Harrison. Greg Dortch at 4,300. He's not the value he was last week, but if you want to triple this up, you definitely can. From the Arizona side, I think they're all just like, especially Brissett. Brissett and McBride is the minimum that I think you should start at. If you don't want to chase the Michael Wilson game or the Greg Dortch game, I'm totally with you. I get it. You don't need to do that either. But this is from the Arizona side where I would start. Jacksonville is a soft fucking zone team. They do not like to – they try to blitz you. They're just not really that great at it. People may think they were really good at it last week against the Chargers. That offensive line has been in shambles for the last 6 to 7 weeks. So hard for me to find better. I love this game environment. I also love that it's in a dome too in Arizona. You don't have to worry about weather anywhere else. I love it. And also Jacksonville from that side, they're going to find a way to make this competitive. They always do. Trevor Lawrence, if you wanted to flip the build and like take a stab on Trevor Lawrence with these guys too, in hopes that he has a game where he runs like 2 touchdowns in and throws one, I don't hate that. I'm not going to go there over Brissett, but that's an angle you can look at here. Jacksonville also too from the running back position. Tootin at 4,600 is very, very cheap. Do I want to like play the roulette of him and ETN? No, they were both questionable throughout the week. I wish one was missing, but I do think playing ETN here does make a lot of sense. I also think if you wanted to take a stab at one of these other wideouts, like Jacoby Myers is going to be pretty chalky this week, and I don't fucking get it. Like I get it in the fact that you want to maybe go get that game environment, but I don't get it in the fact that he's been there for 1 week and he's projecting for like near 20% ownership. He's been there for 1 week, and Parker Washington projects like within a point of him, who has been, Trevor Lawrence's favorite target, and they love him in the red zone, right? Like, I just don't know. I just don't know why you don't play. If you're choosing between Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers, I don't think the $500 savings is worth you really doing anything different. But if you want to roll that way, you can. But yeah, from the Jacksonville side, I play ETN, play Parker Washington, but do that. I wouldn't overstack this game. I just don't think Trevor Lawrence really is in a spot where he's going to support probably more than one pass catcher. And I think those pass catchers are starting to get to the point where if they start getting up to like the $5,500, $6,000 range, $6,000 range, $6,500 range, like you start to go like, I don't think Trevor Lawrence can really support that. So my preferred way to attack this game, McBride in any lineup is a very good idea. He's still, in my opinion, about $1,000 too cheap. There's only been 2 other players, since I think over the last 6 weeks that have scored more fantasy points per game than him. And I think it's Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and that's it. So yeah, this guy's awesome. Brissett at 5,300, awesome. Like the guy just set the NFL record for completions in a fucking game. What are we doing, DraftKings? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, I like this game environment a lot. I know it's not going to be a secret, but starting with Brissett, McBride, if you want to bring it back with somebody on Jacksonville, you can. I don't think you have to, but I definitely think Jacksonville's going to push them enough where you're going to see Brissett drop back another 40 to 45 times. Sorry, my slipper fell off. Excuse me. All right, next game environment we're going to go to is this one might not be for the faint of heart, but honestly, I don't care. We're here to come in first place. It's Seattle, Tennessee. So this game in particular, I believe, offers quite a bit of anything that you could tell yourself a story in this game, and you could probably talk yourself into almost anything because everybody is so goddamn cheap on the Tennessee side, and on the Seattle side, everybody's so goddamn cheap except for JSN. So they're 14-point road favorites this week in Tennessee, going across the country. JSN is $9,000. Do I think JSN is a great play every week? Absolutely. Helen Keller can tell you that JSN is a great play. 9K, I don't care. Go play him. He's fine. Rashid Shaheed at 4,600, dirt cheap, and they haven't really needed him to really be Rashid Shaheed yet. Like, Darnold had 4 interceptions against the Rams. If he only throws 2, does he have a better outlook? Does JSN have a better outlook? Maybe. You go look at the tight end room, like A.J. Barner coming off an 11-target game. A.J. Barner at 3,300 has 4x this salary 4 times basically this year. He's 4x'd this salary, and now he gets the Tennessee Titans. And defense is just abysmal. They're a little bit tougher on I guess pass catchers, you could say, but there's one aspect of this game that I think I'm going to take more shots on. I'm going to try to be first, and I want people to be clear when I say this. I am not trying to predict an outcome here. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm simply doing is saying players in this range are expected to do X. I think this guy also in this range can probably beat them if the circumstances fall that way. And to me, that's honestly Ken Walker. Ken Walker, 5,400. He's been getting a little bit more work as of late. He's had some coach speak really in his favor. I don't always trust the coach speak, but with a guy like Mike McDonald, he's usually a little bit more hush-hush to the media, and he doesn't really say things often unless he does mean it. He talked about how he has received a workload. If this was any other team in football as a 14-point favorite, we'd be smashing that running back, right? Like, we'd be absolutely smashing that running back. We have a $6,200 running back this week in Chase Brown, who's going to be the chalkiest running back on the slate, and he's a 5-point home dog. I don't understand it. And Tennessee too, top 5 in explosive run rates allowed, explosive plays allowed also. This is just a really good spot for anybody in the Seattle Seahawks uniform. So why am I so ignorant to say that it's going to flow through JSN? What if Ken Walker had 19 touches in a game that they were behind the entire game? If he gets 18 to 20 touches, what's to say he doesn't score twice here, right? What if he goes for 102? What if he goes for 125 and 3 and he catches a few passes? I'm not saying he's going to do that, but when you look at the chalk around him, you have Emmanuel Wilson here who's going to be like Megalodon level chalk. If Jacobs gets ruled out, I do think he's probably going to get ruled out with the Thanksgiving slate Sunday, but mega fucking chalk. So this is where I think, honestly, on the Seattle side, you can stick your neck out here. I get that the chalk has crushed everybody week over week. You could definitely stick your neck out here. He's also a pivot off of Montgomery, who's also getting coach speak in a spot against the Giants, where the Giants are the worst run defense in football next to the Cincinnati Bengals. So I just think there's a lot to like about that price tag. Also, not to mention, when you look at the other players on this slate there too, you're going to get pivot off of, Montgomery, like we said, Emmanuel Wilson, like we said. You are going to have DK Metcalf in a game against the Chicago Bears, where people love to attack those game environments. You have Jake Ferguson in a high total game, Cowboys, Eagles. I think you have Ramondre Stevenson, a running back, coming back against Cincinnati. You go a little bit higher. Tyler Warren, no one's going to play with that. Devontae Smith going to be mega fucking chalk. Jameson Williams going to be mega chalk. So his price point here at 5,400, I think gives you a little bit more of a, like, man, if this guy hits, like he could be a guy that you need to win everything. And I'm seeing him sub 10% owned right now. Any last argument I'll make for it, then I'm going to move on. Any other team in football that runs the ball as much as Seattle does, if they were 14-point favorites, we'd be sitting there going, I'm going to play that running back one. We'd be saying that. So I can't wait for what's his fucking name? The loser backup. Oh, Charbonnet. Yeah, I can't wait for Charbonnet to go like 10 for 30 on the ground and vulture 2 touchdowns. But I digress. From the Tennessee side. So the Tennessee side, I think, is also very important because they just offer value everywhere you want. They are making Xavier Restrepo too. They are making him active. I'm not going to tell you to go play Xavier Restrepo. Granted, he did play with Cam Ward at Miami. So if he is projected for any meaning amount of snaps, like, sure. But you're going to get Chimere DK here at 4K and Van Jefferson. Tribe called this out on the show on Thursday, the bakery. Cam Ward, 4,500, dirt cheap. You pair him with DK, 8,500 in a 14-point trailing script. And as you saw last week, Seattle, granted, I get it was the Rams, but Seattle, good defense. You can definitely throw on them a little bit. They're not fucking invincible. So at 4K, Chimere DK, it just seems like a decent value, and I don't think anybody's going to go there. Like when you look at the 4K plays on this slate, like, whether below or above, people are going to go to Yosavas. People are going to go to Hunter Henry. People are going to want to go play Mark Andrews. You can go play Chimere DK for, 4K, and you're going to have somebody less than 3% owned. The other thing I do like about him, and again, I'm not predicting outcomes. This is not a reason you should go play him, but he has a little bit of extra juice to him because he's also on special teams returning kicks. He's returned 1 or 2 kicks already this year for touchdowns. So imagine a world where he goes, 4 for 40 through the air and return, has a receiving touchdown. Maybe you get lucky, catch that also on a return score. But they're going to be in a trailing script here. They're going to be throwing the rock all over the place. He was getting targeted like crazy before Calvin Ridley came back, and also he got hurt last game. You saw what he did against Tennessee. You saw what he did against New England. I don't think the Seattle defense is any different than the Patriots defense really at all. Probably a little bit better than the Colts, but like that's okay. 4K though for a wideout number one. I'm definitely interested. Van Jefferson at 3,600. You want to catch lightning in a bottle? Go for it. I prefer DK, but he is a deep ball threat also. So you could also grab one of the cheap tight ends if you want. I'm probably leaning away from that. I think Chigakonku 3,700. I don't know why I would play him when I can go get like Harold Fannin. I can go get like Mark Andrews. I can go get his teammate DK. But this game in total again provides 3 main things. Number 1, they provide very, very cheap upside. Number 2, they provide very, very cheap upside at super low ownership. And 3, they provide super cheap, low ownership upside plays at crucial price points of other pivots on the slate. So that's my spiel. I'm definitely going to be looking here for some pieces. I don't think I'm going to jump on board with stacking Cam Ward. I'm probably not going to do that, but I'm absolutely 110% going to look for one-offs from this game, maybe a little mini correlation. Ken Walker is going to be one of my main pivots for sure. It's just 14-point spread. How often does an RB1 that gets 16 to 20 touches in that game not hit? I'm willing to make the bet that it hits this week at that ownership. All right, moving on to the next game. We have Atlanta and New Orleans, another, clunker here. So this is a spot where personally, I think that I think that this could be a really, really big trap for a lot of people. And I do also think this could be a very, very big, money-making spot for a lot of people too, to catch people off guard. Starting with the Atlanta side. So obviously Kirk Cousins is now back at the helm. I know he looked like shit yesterday, and he looked like shit last week, and he looked like shit earlier this year when he came in to relieve Penix because of injury. But now he's getting a full week to prepare. Do I think Kirk Cousins is like the worst starting quarterback on the slate? He might be. He might be just completely dust, and if he is, that's fine. There's no Drake London here, right? So I'm a little worried about them establishing what they want to establish. Kyle Pitts at 4,300, I think, is a very, very good price tag. And Kirk Cousins has always, always, always loved his tight ends. We know throughout the years in Minnesota, he made those no-name bums like Johnny Munt and Josh Oliver like showdown relevant famous because he would just find ways to get these guys scores. I think Kyle Pitts at 4,300 is a very interesting play here. I do think I don't want to call him cheap, but I think I would say if he finds the end zone, I think he's very cheap. If he doesn't find the end zone, I think he can still get you that, like, 6 for 60 style game here, maybe 7 for 70. He can do something like that. So I think it's a decent value. Bijan, a lot of people are going to be playing Bijan this week. As far as I'm seeing right now, he's coming in as like the 4th highest owned running back on the slate. I don't know. The whole threat of Tyler Algier like has me a little bit more concerned. And also being that they are starting Kirk Cousins, I wonder if they go to Algier even just like a little bit more. Algier, granted, against Carolina, Bijan was crushing, so maybe they didn't feel the need to go to Algier. But, Algier, they still gave him a goal line touch. He still saw 2 targets, right? Like the guy's got 3, 4, 5. He's got, it's insane. He's got 5 touchdowns in his last 6 games, right? Like he's a factor. He has to be a factor. And he just correlates so negatively to Bijan. So I do think that there is a lot to like about Bijan, but I also think there's a world where he fails. And if he fails, and honestly, if this offense fails, they will go away from him 110%. They have shown it before. They have shown it where they've said, hey, Bijan, you may be the best running back in football. We don't care. You fumbled, you're out, right? Like they do this shit all the time because Raheem Morris is what I like to call a dum-dum brains. So I personally I don't think I want to buy into it as chalk. That being said, though, if this game environment does get to a point where they're trading back and forth, he's going to probably be the reason why. So on the Atlanta side, I have no problem with Bijan. The Saints have low-key actually been okay against running backs lately. They're middle of the pack in terms of yards per attempt allowed. They don't give up a ton of rushing scores. Also, too, they are giving up some explosive plays, so that has me a little worried. Their missed tackle rates is, kind of in the upper half and not in the good upper half. So that definitely can happen here. I expect a heavy dose of him because of Kirk Cousins, but the one thing about the Saints, man, I know that they're not a good team right now, but they're very well coached. They are a sharp group. They are a very, very sharp group. Kellen Moore is, he's dialing up good game plans. They're competitive in games they honestly shouldn't be competitive in. They've won, they won a game on the road at Carolina that they shouldn't have won. And when they get shadow round, they're getting shadow round by like the best teams in football. Like they're losing. They lost by, they were in the game against Buffalo for the longest time. Against Arizona, lost by a score. They were in that for the longest time. San Francisco in that game to the end. Got shadow round at Seattle. Took Buffalo to the brink. Don't let that score fool you. Took out the Giants. Okay. Gave New England hell, when New England came to town. Chicago, that game was close for a little bit too in a bad weather game. Tampa Bay comes into town. Tampa Bay kind of smokes them, but, Tampa Bay's a good team. They go on the road to the Rams after a quarterback switch, and they also change quarterback mid-games in the Tampa Bay game. And then, they come out and they fucking stomp out Carolina, right? So, like, now you're getting the Falcons who are just trending in the wrong direction here. They got rid of Rashid Shaheed. Tyler Shuck has shown that he's got a little bit of upside in his only 2 games he's played. Now he's going to get this Atlanta defense that's just like on their heels. There's a world here where this Saints stack prints for you. Chris Olave and Jawan Johnson, 5,900 almost left per player. I see nothing wrong with this here. In a dome too, no weather whatsoever. Olave at 6,400, just a stupid price tag. Tribe and I were talking about this. Chris Olave, just the workload he gets. He's running deeper routes too. He's had some touchdown regression. In this spot against Atlanta, It's hard not to like him. Like it's really, really hard not to click that. And especially because he's going to be very low, like compared to the other guys at his position. Stephon Diggs coming in higher right above him. Zay Flowers coming in about the same. Going up a little bit more than that. Pickens and Higgins are going to be very, very chalky, for their roles. And slightly below him, AJ Brown and Jameson Williams are going to be mega, mega chalk. So he kind of fits in an area where he's awkwardly priced. So I do think that this stack is cheap enough to make something happen here for you. I think you need Shuck to probably get into the 20s. I'm going to say probably like, 23 to 26 for it to be worth it. But he could do it. He could do it. He just did it to a much, much better unit on the road than this. So I think he's got some upside here. I think Atlanta's reeling. I like this spot a lot. And also, too, if you did want to play the Bijan angle and you say, wow, okay, like how do I leverage this slate more with Bijan chalk? Just put him in the stack right there. So my preferred route for this game, I do want to attack some of these New Orleans pieces. I do think the stack is very much in play with Tyler Shuck. It's a cheap stack that I think could afford you to get a lot of the other high-owned plays you want. And also the high dollar plays. Let's say you keep Bijan in this lineup. You want to take Chalk Chase Brown. From a DST standpoint, maybe we'll grab the Browns against Geno Smith because that's always a really, really good idea. You go down here, you want to take Chalk, Jameson Williams, fine. You want to play Chalk Emmanuel Wilson, fine. Then at 6,600 here, you can play Chalk Stephon Diggs. You can do something like that if you want to. Right? Like, look how easy that comes together. So I do think that there is some fantasy goodness here. Falcons, heavy zone man team. They're going to have some bad matchups here where they're going to be giving up some big plays. And there's some talent on this New Orleans side of the ball. And New Orleans on the other side, like do you think that they can stop Bijan? They're going to key in on him. If you think they stop Bijan, I think Bijan could be one of the worst plays of this entire slate at that price tag and ownership. So multiple ways to go about it. My lean is to play the New Orleans stack with Bijan in hopes that Bijan is the reason why this gets set off. But I also think the stack by itself is totally fine because of all the other pivots around Bijan Robinson's price. So that's my spiel for that game. I know if you want to puke, it's okay. Bring a bucket with you next week to this. All right, next game. We're going to keep this in the puke variety. So I'm going to give everybody the buyer beware here. New York Jets and Baltimore Ravens. All right. Yeah. I'm going to have so much Adonai Mitchell this week. I'm going to have so much of him. It's just disgusting. He's getting talked up a little bit around the industry, but his ownership is not there. This guy is going to see 7 to 10 targets minimum this week. Baltimore secondary is nothing really to be scared of. And also, too, Tyrod Taylor behind, under center, much better thrower of the football than Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields probably gives them a better shot at, maybe, having a game shootout because of his rushing ability. But Tyrod Taylor can definitely support a pass catcher. So at 3,280 Mitchell, I have a lot of interest in that as a punt pivot, especially because you're going to see some ownership on these really, really cheap tight ends that are in that low 3K range to make a lot of this stuff fit. Like Mark Andrews is going to be mega chalk. I think you're going to see a lot of these like cheap 2 tight end builds this week. Either that, or you're going to probably see the 3 running backs also if Emmanuel Wilson is in fact the starter for Green Bay. But I do think that that's an interesting tournament pivot there, right there. I think even going as far as taking Tyrod Taylor and 80 Mitchell, I think makes a lot of sense here. If you want to even do something like this and give yourself a super, super cheap start, you definitely can. Even if you want to do something like this and you want to play Derrick Henry, who, like I said on the show, I don't really love playing Derrick Henry in these spots at this salary just because he needs multiple touchdowns to really kill you and he doesn't catch any passes. So naturally, Derrick Henry is going to go for 40. That's just how my life works these days. But nonetheless, I do think that this is the way you can go here. The Jet side's just too cheap for really what their upside is. And we've actually seen this year, you have an 19-point game for Tyrod Taylor against Tampa Bay. Now you're going to give me AD Mitchell at 3,200, who has in his own right has had a decent game. If he didn't throw that touchdown, to the side, he probably would still be in Indianapolis. But yeah, that should have been an 18-point game 17-point game if he just walked into the end zone. So you're telling me that I could spend 6,500 and I have a chance at, a 40-point combination here. That's the same thing as saying a $7,500 player gets you 40, right? So I just think that you got to think through the math there a little bit. It makes a lot of sense. On the Jets side is what I'm going to probably do. Tyrod's going to make my short list of quarterbacks. Actually, I should take that back. He's not going to make my short list, but he's going to be in my pool. AD Mitchell is definitely in my punt pool, 110%. From the Baltimore side, I mean, I don't have to ever tell you Lamar Jackson's a good play. I do worry about him running here. And, you are hearing around the industry that like, oh, this could be the spot where he throws 4 touchdowns. And like, that's great. But if he throws 4 touchdowns and doesn't run one in and has like a Josh Allen style game, not where he from last week, not that he needs 50, but like if he doesn't have like a 35, 40-point game and one of these other quarterbacks like Brissett gets to 25, like he's dead on arrival, right? Like he is. So I do think you can play Lamar. He'll be in my pool. Going with Lamar, Zay Flowers, and Andrews. If you want to get funky, you want to, substitute Flowers out for DeAndre Hopkins with Bateman out. You could be my guest. The Jets just play a ton of man-to-man defense, and they're not good. They stink. And these guys are both man killers. So I do think that there's some appeal here. There is some opportunity cost, though, with Lamar Jackson at the quarterback spot. So my best advice here, if you're going to play Lamar, you got to double stack him, because unless he starts running again, he hasn't in the last 3 games really. He did a little bit against Minnesota, but when he scampered out to the side, he kind of just like went down. Really, he didn't really, take off. And I don't think they need him to be Superman Lamar this week. You got to play him with pass catchers, otherwise I just don't see how he's part of your winning lineup if he doesn't bring people with him. So that's where I lean. I could be wrong about that. I think Zay Flowers at 6,300 is a fine play, just like Olave. Man coverage here. I do worry about the opportunity that he's going to get in a game like this, but it's a very similar spot to Cleveland. They're just not as good. So something to think about. Mark Andrews, fucking red zone connoisseur, eats touchdowns for breakfast. Love him. Just play him. Think he's a fine play. 3,800. You can do it. But there's some cheap plays here that really make a lot of sense. Very similar to that Tennessee side. Also, though, the benefit that you get in this game compared to the Tennessee-Seattle game, because most of Seattle won't really be owned as well. JSN will have some, but everyone else probably won't be that owned. The other aspect of this game is that Baltimore will be owned. People want to play Lamar Jackson. People are going to play Derrick Henry. So taking these Jets pieces actually leverages, if things fall right, they could actually leverage your chalk Baltimore pieces to go into a realm where you need them. And I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. So want to decipher that. Again, these last 2 game environments, I'm not saying Tennessee, Seattle is going to be the game environment you need because it's going to go off. It's because there's cheap pieces, pivots, and nobody's going to play them. In this spot, same thing. The Jets are so cheap, nobody's going to play them, and they do help push along the other chalk pieces in this game. I digress. All right, moving on. 2 more games, and then we're going to get out of here. All right, we're going to go to Philly and Dallas. So this game is this game to me is just so interesting because I think both teams are vastly different than where they met when they met week 1. The first thing I'll say, this Eagles offensive coordinator, put him out of his misery, send him to the shadow realm, fire him. You have thoroughbreds on this team, and you can't find a way to get them the fucking ball. Disgraceful. It's terrible. This Dallas defense that they're facing is not great, but they are healthier now. They got some pieces back. They made a trade, and they granted it was only against the Raiders. You really saw the fruits of it, but nonetheless, it was a very good spot, and they delivered. So, do I think that this defense is anything you should be afraid of? No. Do I think Philly can still make this, hell on earth? 1,000%. Yes. 1,000%. The part of this game that has me coming to it more and more is that one, the high total, but number two, you have some prices here that are like really, really egregious. And I mean egregious in that, like, I can't believe you'd pay that for him. And oh my God, that's all I have to pay for him. That's what I'm thinking. The Philly side, everyone's going to want to lean to just because it's too cheap. Devontae Smith, 5,600. AJ Brown, 5,900. You're going to have company there. One of those guys I think probably has a good game. Do I think there's a world where, Jalen Hurts like puts the team on his back and has that, 25-point game and throws multiple touchdowns? These guys, like, yeah, absolutely. I think that's in the realm of possibilities, and that's probably the preferred way that I would play the Philly side. I do like the idea of taking a shot on Saquon here. I don't think Saquon is quite right now. And, maybe it's the offensive coordinator. I'm not really sure. But this Dallas team, over the last, 4 or 5 weeks, they got ran all over by Arizona. They got punched in the mouth by Denver, and Denver was very efficient on the ground. They just didn't have like big yardage plays really. But Carolina, Rico Dowdle ran all over them. Last week against Vegas, Ashton Jeanty against that terrible with that terrible offensive line couldn't really do anything. You're gonna give me Saquon in this like big bad offensive line here. I'll roll the dice on him. I'll roll the dice. You're gonna give me 7,500 pivot off of You're going to give me a pivot off of Derrick Henry here. He gets a little bit more passing game work too. I don't mind that at all. He's a pivot off of Bijan too. Like I think Saquon's a fine play. I think we even have him project a little bit better than Derrick Henry too. So my preferred route is I'm either going to double up Hurts and I'm either going to go, the two wideouts, or I'm going to go pick one wideout in Dallas Goedert. I probably lean more towards the two wideouts. If anything, I think just there's too much opportunity cost at tight end really. But I do think that side makes sense. But yeah, either full on Eagles double stack or you play Saquon. I personally am probably not going to double stack Philly here. It's for me, it's all about the opportunity cost. When I go look at, Jalen Hurts here at 6,600, like he's got to have that like 30 to 35 point game. And then like no one can be close. Right. And the way he gets to that 30 to 35 point game is not through him throwing the ball. It's him also doing some damage on his own, tush push touchdowns and all that stupid bullshit that those, Eagles love. So if you're telling me that he's going to score, let's say he has that ceiling outcome, it's actually like a disservice to his stack in a way. What if he punches two in and, he throws for 2 touchdowns? Is that enough for like a $5,600 and a $5,900 receiver to get there? No, it's not. I still think though, if Hurts has that 25 to 30 point game, he could bring them along because he's doing it more through the air. So I think that's just the risk you run. And there's a lot of paths where I can see somebody like Jalen Hurts putting up a 35 point game and like no one else on his team matters. So that's why I'm probably not going to do that. And also I'd rather just play Jacoby Brissett, honestly. Like I really would. So for the Philly side, that's what I'll do. Dallas from a defensive standpoint. It's weird. A few weeks back, they started playing more man and now they've completely abandoned it again. So they're a soft zone team. Kind of leads me towards Devontae Smith, if anybody, but nonetheless, you could play anybody here. I don't mind the Eagles wide receivers as a one-off if you want to make that fit too. I don't mind that like high 4s to like mid 5s wide receiver play has been pretty fruitful. That's where a lot of people like to land on ownership. So I think it's fine. But from the Dallas side, I don't think I want to play Dak Prescott here. Prescott, this price tag, 6,400. His weapons are just too expensive for me to stack him with them. I just can't do that. I do think CeeDee Lamb is a sick one-off though. Like I have no problem with CeeDee Lamb whatsoever. I think he's a really good play, especially against this Philly team who, Quinyon Mitchell, outside receiver. Everybody's afraid of him. Like I said, every defense in football gives up something, right? And this Jalen Phillips trade that they made, I think is going to make a pretty big difference for them and how they get pressure. When you take a guy like CeeDee Lamb and like you move him all around the field, like these guys don't travel into the corner, into the slot with him. Like they just don't do that. Right. So Why would I be so arrogant to think that CeeDee Lamb, of all people, is going to get shut down in any game? You can play him in any matchup. He's matchup proof. So I do like CeeDee Lamb. I think Pickens is a little points chasey after what you saw on the showdown slate. 6,900. If you do want to go there, you can. I just don't love it. I think he's a guy who's probably going to get a little bit more limited. My favorite play from the Dallas side, though, let me tell you something. Nobody is talking about Javonte Williams. Nobody's talking about this guy. Eagles, run funnel defense. You have seen over the last couple weeks what has been done to this Philly defense also. Josh Jacobs ran all over them and scored. Detroit tried to run all over them. I mean, Gibbs had a pretty good game. The Giants, Cam Scatterbo before he got hurt. Yeah. What about Cam Scatterbo the week prior, right? Like this, you can run on this fucking team. And I think if Dallas really, really wins this game, I just don't think it's in like a shootout variety with this team. They probably actually wanted to shoot out a little bit more because the Eagles like to play slow and not take too many chances on offense. But man, like this is a price tag that it's uncomfortable. He puts you in some really weird spots where nobody's going to play him. And I just think as a home, at home here in this spot against the Eagles, like how do you not have some interest in a team that clearly wants to keep Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith off the field? They don't want to have them on the field. So I'm into that spot a lot. The other thing that's kind of encouraging, they're only 3-point, home dogs here. So Vegas is telling you if this is like a mutual site game, that this is probably a pick 'em. So I'm all for it this week. I think Javonte Williams is a sick pivot. He's my preferred way to attack from the Dallas side. Outside of that, I kind of think everybody's too expensive. You can go to Lamb if you want to, but to sum it up, game environment's really good here. Points are going to be scored. I think Dallas is a little too expensive outside of Javonte Williams for it. If it explodes, they're going to be the benefactor. On the Eagles side, the receivers are too cheap, but also Jalen Hurts can shadow realm you and just have a game where he literally does everything. So I'm going to lean more towards taking one-off receivers and Javonte Williams, but nothing wrong with the stack here. All right, last game environment, and then we're going to get out of here, is the New England and Cincinnati game. So this game, to me personally, I kind of think some of the chalk here is like a little stupid. But then when I look at the same chalk again, I go like, okay, I get it. So let's start with the Cincinnati side. So no Jamar Chase. You're going to have T. Higgins here. T. Higgins is going to probably be pretty decently chalky. Let me check his ownership. Yeah, he's projecting right now as a top 5 highest owned wide receiver. I personally don't think you need to go there with him. I mean, can he do something? Yeah, like I think he absolutely can. I just don't think he's the type of receiver that you want to bet on when he's like the number one by himself. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I love him. I would love him on my team. I really, really would. I just don't think that there's a ton of upside in betting on him being a de facto number one. When he's been the number one in the past, it hasn't really gone that well. New England is a pretty good defense. You could throw on them and, Christian Gonzalez, like I'm not afraid of any, one matchup, but he's really, really good. And T. Higgins is not really like a supreme route runner. He's a more like, I'm going to be at the high point, catch it and burn you. That's probably what I'm going to do. So I just think it's a little bit of weird chalk with Joe Flacco there too. Like the jig is up on him, in my opinion. I think people have figured out what he's going to do now. New England is a sharp defensive team, coach team, I should say. They don't have their number one weapon. I just don't really buy the stack here. You're also getting Gesicki back. Like there's just a lot of things here that make me pause and go like, it's too volatile for me. The highest owned running back on the slate right now is fucking Chase Brown. And I get it because of his receiving work here. I think Chase Brown is going to give you an awesome, awesome floor here. As I think through the chalk more, I probably lean more towards playing him. I thought he was abysmal chalk a few days ago, and now that I think it through more, I kind of get it because of his pass catching work, and New England just gives up the most receptions to running backs next to Tampa Bay. So I get it. Do I think he is a play that can like shadow realm you? I don't know. Like 6,200. Sure, if he finds the box, but New England's been like very stout against running backs. They give up a lot of receptions, but not a lot of yards to running backs. I don't know. I think he's fine. I think you could pivot off him. Like Javonte Williams has, like, if they're on the 2-yard line, like he can run 3 in, right? Like if they are on the 2-yard line multiple times on Sunday, he will run the ball in, or they will at least give him the opportunity to. So that's more my fear. I think if I'm targeting from the Cincinnati side, I do like Chase Brown enough, but like I want to be careful about where I play him in spots. If you want to play, Yoshi, like at 4,100, like, all right, have fun with your 9 fantasy points, bro. Like, what the fuck are we doing? No. On the New England side, so this is where I think we really need to talk through some things. And I've heard a lot of talk throughout the industry this week just about like what Ramondre is going to do, and to Henderson and him being back. And I lean in the camp of, I think that Travion Henderson has shown you too much as a coaching staff to not give him the lead role. Do I think he's going to return to a role this week where he has 23, 24 touches? No, I don't think he is. I think he's probably realistically maybe in like the 15 to 18 realm. And you know who else averages that? Jahmyr Gibbs, and everybody's going to play him at 8,300 and a spot where they're telling you that, that Montgomery is going to get a shit ton of fucking work, right? So you're banking on efficiency to an extent, but this is just like the nut matchup for what he does well. I think starting with Travion Henderson is a sick pivot this week. And the thing about him is that he has the ability to go hit a home run. You've seen it 2 weeks in a row. He can do it. In the passing game, he's sick. In the running game, he's sick. I just think at 6,500 in this spot against Cincinnati, where every single week we've seen running backs just absolutely demolish them, you got it. You got to consider it. Yeah, even like fucking, where's DeAndre? Oh, DeAndre Swift. Oh, yeah, he didn't play that game. Monungai did, right? So they let a guy in Monungai, backup running back, 176 yards on the ground. Are you fucking kidding me? Kenny Gainwell. Let's see. Kenny Gainwell. 7 for 81 and 2. Travion Henderson is not like a caliber above those guys. Like, come on. No. I have a lot of interest in Travion Henderson. I don't think I want to stack Drake May. I just think, you can't really guess where the ball's going to go. My best guess is, obviously Diggs and Hunter Henry. I do think Hunter Henry is I think Hunter Henry is a good play because they give up a ton to tight ends, but I don't really think he's like this smash play. Like every week we line up to play this guy and he just fucking duds because New England, shits on people. So I don't know. I think I'm going to put New England in the category that I think you could put the Detroit Lions this week. I think you can grab multiple pieces from that offense and not have to play their quarterback. I lean Travion. If you want to pair him with Diggs, you want to pair him with, Hunter Henry, be my guest. I really like the idea of playing Travion Henderson. And if you want to roll the dice and go play in large field only, you want to play Ramondre in this spot, yeah, maybe you can. Maybe both those guys at, you got 6,700, 52. You're talking about, 11.9. If both those guys can combine for, 40, yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't advise that. But I do think that Travion Henderson, sick play at his fucking ownership. If you're going to bank on the efficiency with an $8,300 Jahmyr Gibbs, with coach speak saying that David Montgomery is going to get the ball more, and the fact that Dan Campbell is calling the plays now, and you're not going to bank on the efficiency with Travion Henderson against the Bengals, you're not going to do that? Asinine. That's fucking asinine. Okay, so that does it for our game environments. to go over my favorite stacks of the week, and I'm going to have this updated in the article too. Just looking at an offense, and again, this is different from the game environments because the game environments where you get the value to build out the rest of your roster. If I'm going to talk about quarterback stacks this week, my favorite ones that I would say right now are Arizona, Detroit, New Orleans. I can't believe I'm fucking saying this, but the New York Jets. And outside of that, I guess I'll throw Kansas City in there and the Eagles, but like I really don't see myself paying up a quarterback this week. For a core now too, this core lineup is very highly owned, and that's on purpose. This is for you to start your build, make pivots off it. This is best used for any small to medium sized field, single entry, 3 entry max, 5 entry max, whatever you play, satellites, and make your pivots where you can. Chase Brown, Emmanuel Wilson. We're going to assume Josh Jacobs is out here. If Josh Jacobs plays, don't listen to this at all. Amon-Ra, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride. This is a chalky core. It's a good projected core. Use this as a pivot base for the rest of your lineups. But everybody, thank you so much for checking us out again. There's more to come. If you haven't already, please go check out our bakery show with Tribe and myself. Go through position by position, top plays in the slate, projections, fades, everything like that. Tomorrow night, actually tonight, it's Saturday. Shit. Tonight, James and Pablo are going to walk through their slate talk, usually around 8:30, 9 p.m. EST, where they're going to give you a high-level overview of the slate and go over, micro and macro leverage points. You also have Hess and Ryan. If you know, Hess in the Discord, you definitely know him. If you don't know Ryan, he's Floppy Dingus in the Discord, and boy, is that dingus flopping. My man is extra sharp. Check them out on the State of Mind pod too, where they go over early week, thoughts and ownership leverage. And come check out James's Showdown articles. Come grab a pass if you haven't already. Come check us out. I'm Jason and Paydirt DFS. Let's go get some trophies.